I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi! Silly Jedi!
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, everybody, welcome to Star Wars Car Talk. You know, every time I'm about to say Star Wars Car Talk, I feel like my brain, for like a split second, just shuts down. It's like it does a complete reboot, and for like a second, and as soon as it reboots, that millisecond later, I have to remember that I'm what I'm actually saying. I'm saying Star Wars Car Talk. So anyway, that's just a little insight to the inner workings of my mind. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Hope you guys had a wonderful week. And here we are again, Star Wars Car Talk. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, thank you so much for catching us here on Anchor or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We're all over the place right now. So if you aren't subscribed, please make sure you do that. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please make sure that you give us a nice little review on the iTunes thing, and just it helps us out, gets the word out. And we're still a baby podcast. We're still in diapers. You know, we're still crawling around in our own dirty diaper. But pretty soon we'll be walking, we'll be chewing, we'll be, doing all the things that bigger babies do. Yeah. So anyway, if you're watching us on YouTube, well, thanks for watching us, and please make sure that you like and subscribe right away. Just get that out of the way. Just hit the like button right now, and make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. And you could also hit that bell. I hear that bell is nice, because if you ring the bell, then every time Star Wars Car Talk comes out, you'll be notified that Star Wars Car Talk is out, and you can be the first to catch the latest episode. So please make sure you do that. And for those of you watching, sorry for those of you listening to, but for those of you watching, you might notice this little black thing here. Usually when I'm editing this video, I usually try to crop it out. But if you see it, it's like hanging right there. That's like my little microphone that I use here in the car. It's a little ceramic microphone. It's really, really sensitive, and it's a really good microphone. Like it packs a punch for being such a tiny little microphone. But the key to it is to kind of keep it close to you, so that it doesn't pick up all the ambient sounds, all the crazy sounds of the cars driving by me, and the car, and all. I'm in a car. It's Star Wars Car Talk, so you're gonna hear all that stuff. But excuse me. The goal is to basically kind of have a more professional, more polished sound. I know last week's episode, I apologize if you listened to that. There was definitely some issues with the audio, and that was the microphone that I was using last week. I didn't have it wasn't mounted properly, and it just kept making this thumping sound because it just kept like shaking where it was. So I apologize for that. So this one, we're back to this little guy, because this little guy's amazing. This is like my go-to little microphone when you're in a pinch. And so this thing's been great, working great. But anyway, enough tech talk. This is not the tech talk. This is not car tech talk. This is Star Wars Car Talk. And so this week, this week I have to admit, I have to kind of confess, I really wanted to be able to do kind of like either episode, whole episode, or segments of episodes, like do a segment here where we talk about Clone Wars, because it's the elephant in the room. Clone Wars is out. It's been out for a few weeks. It's all the rave. It looks amazing. I haven't watched it. So I haven't watched it because I'm still in the process of rewatching the original first 6 seasons. And I'm actually, I just finished season 5, so I'm moving into the 6th season now, and the 6th season was cut short. There's only 13 episodes on Disney Plus, and that was right around the time that Disney acquired Star Wars. So the first thing they did was shut down that Clone Wars, which was huge mistake, huge. But nonetheless, that last season I want to check it out before I jump into this. Now, some might argue, well, you don't really need a lot. Well, you actually, yeah, you do. There's a lot of stuff that happens in season 6. Now, I kind of watched bits and pieces of the Clone Wars through the years. When it originally aired, I wasn't hooked. And to my shame, I wasn't hooked. It's a really good show. Being that it's an animated, episodic show, it really is good. Some episodes, I'll admit, are slow burns. You know, the first season definitely is a slow burn, and the fact that the episodes are a little bit out of order. You know, I actually looked online and I found an episode guide that I downloaded and I printed out, and I basically followed that. So it tells you the correct order to watch the episodes. And for the most part, it's not that bad. It's just certain episodes, you know, you got to like go back, and then it makes more sense. So it's better if you just watch them in the order that they were meant to be released in. I just don't know why they weren't released in that order, but there are some slow burn episodes on there that, you know, you can probably skip, or you can just skip through. It's a good show, though. It's a really good show. There's a lot of really good nuggets in there. There's a lot of setting things up in the Star Wars universe that really will pay off later on. That definitely pay off in Episode 3. There's a lot of good little things that are set up that pay off in Star Wars Rebels, that animated show. And so, you know, it's just good. It just dives deep into that era, that, you know, the Clone Wars that Obi-Wan mentioned in A New Hope. You know, I fought with your father in the Clone Wars. Yes. I mean, it just fills in that gap that you're like, what is this Clone Wars all about? And unfortunately, I feel like the original trilogy should have been the Clone Wars. Like, you know, like the original trilogy was all about the Star War of the Rebels versus the Empire. I feel like the prequels should have been the Clone Wars. Like the first, you know, Episode 1 should have right off the bat started with, basically you could have taken a lot of the stuff that happened in Episode 2, and you could have made that Episode 1, and that could have been like the beginning of the Clone Wars. So that way the 3 prequel movies would have been the Clone Wars, and you can, like, you know, and you could have divided them. Like, that really goes into my whole thing where I feel like Anakin shouldn't have been a kid in the first one. I feel like George Lucas did that solely because he wanted to cast a young child to be Anakin, to kind of capture the younger demographic of kids that were going to be watching these movies. I think, you know, it was smart on him to do that, because a lot of kids that grew up only on the prequels, definitely that was their Star Wars. But in hindsight, you know, in retrospect, like, it would have made more sense for Anakin to have been a teenager right off the bat in Episode 1, and it still would have fit with, you know, Yoda's concern that he's too young to begin the or too old to begin the training, rather. Because yeah, if he's a teenager, you know, maybe even like a few years younger than what Luke was, then yeah, he's too young to begin the training. But that was part of the downfall thing, you know, that, you know, he was too young. He was an out of control teenager, but he was so strong with the Force that, you know, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan had to take him on, and because he was the chosen one, like, you know, the chosen one, the prophecy. So excuse me. That's my feeling on the prequels. I feel like the more I think back on the prequels, the more I feel like that should have been the story. It should have been started off Anakin as a teenager, and this whole thing with the Clone Wars starting, and then that way Episode 2 you could have still focused on the romance, still focused on the secret marriage and all that stuff, but you could have also you could have also dive more into the clones and some of the things that we see in the Clone Wars animated show. You know, and war, like the Jedi in war. So we were never going to see the for over 1,000 generations the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace, and in the galaxy. Like we don't get to see that in the prequels. And anyway, so lean into that and show how the Jedi fell because they were pushed into this Clone War. And so the prequel should have been the Clone War of Star Wars, and then the original trilogy was the Star War, which is the Rebels and the Empire. And then obviously the sequel trilogy was kind of just a rehash of Empire, First Order, Rebels, Resistance. But anyway, all that to say is that the Clone Wars is a great show. I'm going to binge watch season 6 hopefully this weekend, and next week I am hopeful that next week I will be able to give you my thoughts on the first few episodes of season 7. Now the great thing is that about this last season of Clone Wars is that all the episodes are being released one by one, like on a week to week, which I think is great. I really like the fact that Disney Plus is doing that. They're doing it. They did it with The Mandalorian. Every episode was released, once a week on Friday, and they're doing the same thing with this. So I think it's a great thing because, it's good to like watch something and then savor it during the week, and you could rewatch it. And not just like breeze through every episode and like binge watch an entire season. And then it's like, it's like savor every bite. Like, don't just like sit down. If you sit down and you glob up all of your ice cream in one swallow, then you're going to end up with an ice cream headache, and you would not have enjoyed every spoonful of that tasty, delicious ice cream. And it's the same with this stuff. Like, don't watch the entire season all at once of a show. You're going to end up with like a headache. You're not really, there's going to be so many things that you missed and you didn't catch because you weren't paying attention, because you were just kind of like just watching. Excuse me. So all that to say is, Clone Wars, it's a must watch, and my apologies for not being up to date with what's going on that last season. But you know what? Because it's being released week to week, we'll have time to talk about it right here on Star Wars Card Talk. I did it again. I can't say Star Wars Card Talk. I like fumble right before I say it. In other news, just want to let you guys know that we have a new Instagram account. So we have Jedi Toy Masters, which is our family Star Wars account, along with our YouTube channel, which is all things Star Wars and Star Wars toys. We love Star Wars toys. I think it's a big part of the culture. It's a big part of the Star Wars culture. I mean, you can't have, these days, it's like you can't have Star Wars if you don't have Star Wars toys. I mean, it's the film, as great as the films are and were when they were released, if it wasn't for the toys, that momentum, that hype train wouldn't have continued. It would have slowed down. And I think the toys is what have impacted the success of Star Wars in a lot of ways. And also the toys are the reason, ironically, I feel like the toys are the reason that Star Wars isn't doing that well now, because if we don't care too much about the characters that we see on screen, and we don't see enough toys or enough hype for the toys, then what is it all for? Because the toys are what kids use to, all of us, and when I say kids, I mean big kids and little kids. It's what we use to kind of remember what we saw in the movies and relive it and reimagine it and use our imagination and all that. So I think definitely the toys are a big part of it, and that's why our channel and our account here on Instagram and on is all about being a Star Wars family and all things Star Wars. So we're Jedi Toy Masters, but we have a new Instagram account, and that account is Star Wars Card Talk. So if you go on Instagram, you search Star Wars Card Talk, you'll see it in the corner on the screen here. What we'll be doing there is just posting little nuggets from our episodes. We'll be posting our full episodes on there as well, because sometimes you don't want to have to jump. If you're on your phone, you don't want to have to like jump to YouTube and all that. So you can just watch them. I'm going to be posting them right on there as well. They're going to be a week behind on the Instagram account. So if you want to catch them early, you got to catch them on YouTube if you want to watch them, or listen to them on podcast form. So that's all that house cleaning done. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is last week we talked about Star Wars movies and the video releases and how this new box set, this Saga Collection box set is coming out. It's on pre-order. It's going to be coming out soon, I think later this month. $250. What do you guys think? I raised the question. Is it too much money? Are you going to get it? I really want to know. So hit me up in the comments below. You can DM me as well on either account, and let's chat about that. But I really wanted to touch base on that again because this past week, one of my favorite podcasts, Blast Points, that's basically my favorite Star Wars podcast right now, is Blast Points. They did an episode that just came out this past week exactly on that. On all the releases of Star Wars in video, different various video forms, and it was a hilarious episode. So I encourage you to check that out. We got to share the love, all the Star Wars love that we can here. So check that out as well because it was a great episode. Those guys cracked me up over at Blast Points, and I, as much as I love doing my podcast here, and I hope that you listen and you subscribe and all that. I really want to make sure that those guys blow up because they are just an amazing team. They're so funny. Their episodes are great, and informative. That's they're you get so much good information. It's like listening to Wikipedia, Star Wars Wikipedia. So check them out as well. What else? What else can we talk about? Well, lastly, I want to give a shout out also to another great Star Wars account that I really enjoy, and that is Star Wars Theory. This guy's become basically like the biggest Star Wars YouTube channel right now. I think he's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, independent Star Wars YouTube channel. And him and the folks over at Collider are resurrecting a podcast that they used to do called Rule of Two. Another great Star Wars podcast. Which is basically just, fans getting to talk about Star Wars, and what's going on, news and all that. So they've kind of resurrected that podcast, and they're doing it. It's on the Star Wars Theories YouTube channel. So check him out as well. We got to share the love, man. The Star Wars community is amazing. Let me end it here with this. I'm gonna short episode this week. Sorry about that, but I just wanted to kind of get some of these things out there and let you know that hopefully in the next coming weeks we'll be talking about Clone Wars and whatever other Star Wars news comes out. But let me just say this, the Star Wars community, when we started Jedi Toy Masters almost 2 years ago, it was just like a little pet project. It was just a way for me to kind of just post a couple pictures of my kids and myself in our Star Wars stuff. We had costumes and t-shirts and all that stuff, but as I began to invest, I'll say that, kind of like invest my time and attention in being part of the community, the Star Wars community on Instagram, specifically the toy community, we were met with just such love and encouragement. And there's so many folks out there that are from all walks of life, and big Instagram accounts, small accounts, toy photography to toy collectors, and everyone is just we love Star Wars, and it's just something that when you love something, and it's escapism, let's call it for what it is. It's escapism that has good life lessons mixed in. I mean, these are movies, these are stories, these are fairy tales. These are modern fairy tales that capture the imagination and inspire you to be better. And they're precautionary tales. Regardless of what you think about the prequels, when you think back at Episode 3 and you think of just those final moments of Anakin and him falling. And then you look back on the Clone Wars animated show and you see all these things that he had to go through. You know, we can put ourselves in his shoes and say, man, any one of us can fall from grace. Any one of us can just get frustrated with status quo, or get frustrated where we are, whether it's school or at work, or if we're part of a team or part of an organization and we're not agreeing with the leadership or how things are done or whatever. You know, there's good ways to do things and there's bad ways to do it. And unfortunately, Anakin was persuaded and kind of fell from grace, but you can kind of understand where his frustration came from. And I think that's the thing about how George Lucas wrote these things. And even with Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, you know, it was the hero's journey and we went along with him, and he was hesitant to go on this journey, just like we are many times hesitant out of fear to take a step forward and challenge ourselves or do something that is bigger than us, or believe in a cause or believe in something that's bigger than us. And I think definitely, you know, there's a lot to learn there. So there's so much, I'll say there are eternal lessons in Star Wars within the construct of Star Wars that are things that we can carry over to our lives wherever you are spiritually, wherever you are psychologically, philosophically, wherever you are in life. You can take something away from there. You know, there's a lot of nuggets there. So, and what's great about the Star Wars community at any level, you know, is that it's just everybody just wants to have fun and enjoying Star Wars, if that makes sense. I think it's a good thing that the films are in the rearview mirror now. Like these sequel trilogy movies are in the rearview mirror. You know, the debate over The Last Jedi being divisive, the debate over The Force Awakens being a reboot or a rehashed, and the debate over how weak the Rise of Skywalker was in ending everything, and it was maybe an unsatisfying ending or whatever. We can put all that behind us now because Star Wars will always be there for us when we need it, you know, and especially with things like Disney Plus. Now they're not sponsoring this video, or this podcast, but I just think it's great that we can, you know, we have something like Disney Plus that we can go to and go back and watch the original Star Wars, or go back and watch the prequels, or go back and watch Star Wars Rebels. My sons have been rewatching like just random episodes of Star Wars Rebels, and I forgot how much I love that show. And, you know, going back and watching Clone Wars. And now we have a new season of Clone Wars. And we have The Mandalorian. And pretty soon we're going to have a season 2 of The Mandalorian. And we have a Cassian Andor series. You know, that'll be fun. We have Obi-Wan coming out in a year or two. So, you know, and yeah, we're going to have other Star Wars films. We have these new books coming out, The High Republic, which is just essentially the Old Republic, just renamed, rebranded in a new way or whatever. But it's exciting. It's exciting. So all that to say is love Star Wars, hate the hate. You know, hate just leads to suffering, and it just leads to discord and discouragement. So you know what? I mean, we can all have our opinions, but let's just agree to love Star Wars. Let's just agree to love Star Wars. Hashtag agree to love Star Wars. So all that, thank you guys for listening this week. Sorry for the, well, it's not really a short episode, but you know, our episodes aren't that long. Hopefully soon we will be having guests on. I would love to have somebody sitting right here in the co-pilot seat. I need my Chewie here, and we'll be doing either that very soon, but we'll definitely be talking about Clone Wars coming up. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. Give us a good review. Let's start a conversation in the comments below, or you can DM me. Let's start a conversation. What do we think of Clone Wars? And what do we think of this new box set coming out in a couple of days, I guess? So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And may the Force be with you.